Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a really powerful, almost paradoxical idea that sits right at the heart of service, leadership, and, well, personal resilience.
That's a foundational one.
Yeah, and our source material today is a classic piece of spiritual teaching. It's from 2 Corinthians 4.7. Wow, we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us.
It's a core text, definitely. And the analysis we're digging into comes from Andrew Murray, who is just a profound writer on these things. He was looking at how the Apostle Paul dealt with his own troubles, his own, humiliation.
And the problem he was addressing is one we all face.
Exactly. How do we reconcile our very obvious human feebleness, our flaws, our burnout, our mistakes, with this magnificent, world-changing power or responsibility we're supposed to carry?
That is the question. And our mission today is, I think, pretty ambitious. We want to take Murray's analysis and pull out four core, he calls them wondrous truths about this whole dynamic.
The relationship between your own weakness and that supreme strength.
Yes. The goal is to give you a faster, deeper handle on what true internal preparation for service actually looks like. I mean, forget the basic self-help advice. This goes way deeper.
But before we even get to those 4 points, the sources make two absolutely essential remarks. You have to see them as like non-negotiable prerequisites.
Okay, the non-negotiables. The first one is about the Holy Spirit's primary role. We often think of divine power as being for, external work, to give us energy or make us eloquent for some task.
Right, power for the work.
But Murray argues its primary role is not that, it's life renewal. It's the continuous, messy, difficult work of transforming your whole inner being into the likeness of Christ.
Which means becoming profoundly selfless, loving, and humble first. The inner work has to precede the outer work.
If you skip that and just chase the external power, you've missed the whole point.
You've missed everything. And that leads right into the second duty, especially for anyone trying to influence or lead or help other people. The sources say the first duty of every worker is to humbly beg of God that whatever they want to see done in others
Must first be fully and truly done in themselves.
yes, fully and truly.
Wait, that sounds like a heavy burden, doesn't it? If I'm teaching someone about peace, I have to embody total peace. If I'm encouraging generosity, I have to be completely generous. How does that not just become this crushing perfectionism?
It flips the script. It's not about you generating perfection through your own effort.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the source. If I don't have the love of God actively in me, I can't really channel it.
Oh.
It's about internal integrity. It creates this hidden power that lets the message pass cleanly through you because the life behind the words is actually real. It's leading by being, not just by performing.
That makes perfect sense. The credibility comes from the source operating within you. Which brings us to the first of those wondrous truths, the greatness of the heavenly treasure.
So what is this treasure, specifically? The source defines it as the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is, but think of it less like data and more like the sun. It's not just an intellectual fact you learn somewhere. It's experiential. It shines into your heart, and it provides warmth, heat, the very light of life itself.
That distinction between head knowledge and heart knowledge is so key, especially for an audience of, high achievers who are used to mastering things with their intellect.
Oh, absolutely. You could be the most splendid preacher, the most sound leader, but still fundamentally lack this treasure if it hasn't become a religion of the heart where that love and glory actually live.
The treasure isn't data, it's a living reality.
It is. And when you realize you actually carry this, the psychological shift is just immense. You stop focusing on scarcity, on what you lack, and you start seeing abundance. You get this joy and confidence, a consciousness that says, I am a rich man, I am a millionaire, I have heavenly treasures.
That perspective is the engine for real confidence. So how do we get this treasure? It sounds like we can't just Google it.
Precisely. The sources are clear. You can't get this wealth through human means. It's not in human knowledge or thought or even your past spiritual experiences.
Not even in books.
Murray makes a fascinating point here. He says you can't find it in books and that even the Bible is just a pointer to show you the way up to God. The treasure itself is only found in the active conscious presence of God.
And here's where it gets really interesting, and I think connects to modern ideas about burnout.
Yes.
You cannot live on the sunlight of yesterday. If this shining, this transformative knowledge is what sustains you, it can't be a memory. It has to be the living, unceasing, divine shining of God himself.
Which requires you to abide in God's presence, not just on Sunday, but every moment.
That's the real metric of your effectiveness, then.
It is. The source gives a startlingly clear measure. A person has as much real power for eternity as they have of God shining into their heart right now, today, this moment.
So if the light goes out, your power goes with it, no matter what you achieved yesterday.
Exactly.
Okay, so the bar for the treasure is infinitely high. It's got to be fresh, dynamic, heart-based. But if it's that magnificent, why are we constantly doubting ourselves? Which brings us to the second truth, the feebleness of the earthly vessel.
This is where so many workers and leaders get stuck. They look at the vessel themselves in the wrong way. They're always focused on their deficiencies. They're always saying, I am so weak, my thoughts are so poor, my experience is so wretched.
Right, they're measuring the container against the contents and feeling like a complete failure.
But we naturally expect proportion, don't we? If a billionaire in Chicago displays some priceless diamond, it's going to be in a gold-inlaid, climate-controlled vault.
Of course, you assume the vessel has to match the value of what's inside.
And God does the exact opposite. Murray uses this great analogy from a gold mine. They found this incredible lump of pure gold, worth maybe $1,000 a fortune back then.
And how do they carry it?
They carried it out of the mine in a common iron bucket, something worth maybe half a dollar, a precious, precious treasure in a valueless common vessel.
Wow, that's a powerful image, because the person carrying that bucket, they're not worried about polishing the rust off it.
Not at all.
They're not lamenting that the bucket isn't gold-plated. Their whole attention is on the weight, the value of what's inside.
That is the application. God's delight is to put this heavenly treasure into an earthen vessel. Our job is to be content with that earthenness and stop focusing on, feeling unable to speak with warmth or struggling with some personal fault.
Your whole thought should shift to magnifying the treasure, not fixing the container.
Right. And the ultimate proof of this principle, the source reminds us, is Christ himself. God's ultimate treasure is his Son. And where did he put that treasure?
In Jesus, the earthly vessel. The babe of Bethlehem who had nowhere to lay his head and who, ultimately went down into the grave.
The perfect transcendent glory was housed in the humblest, most broken vessel imaginable. That contrast isn't a mistake.
It's the design.
It is the design.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the third truth, which is about permanence, the abiding difference between the two.
Okay, so if we are filled with this divine life, do we eventually stop being so earthen? I mean, don't we get stronger over time, less fragile?
It seems like a logical question for spiritual progress, right?
Yeah.
But the answer from the source is a definitive no. The vessel remains earthen. Paul himself, after decades of the most profound experiences, still spoke of himself as an earthen vessel, and he knew he would be until his death.
And the reason for that is stated right in the verse.
It is that the excellency of the power may be of God. The focus has to remain entirely on the source of the power.
So if I'm getting this, the continuous feebleness of the vessel is actually a necessary defense mechanism against our own psychology.
Precisely. We are, by nature, so full of pride in self. The danger of self-exaltation is always there, even for the most spiritual person, especially when God starts to use us and we see success.
That's when the ego swells.
Exactly. The vessel must remain earthen, fragile, limited, imperfect, so we never, ever forget that we are just the container.
We see that so powerfully in Paul's own life, right? In 2 Corinthians 12, with the thorn in the flesh, he was given it specifically, he says, lest I should be exalted by the revelations.
God allowed weakness to be his constant companion. And through that, he learned that when he was weak, that's when he would be strongest, because Christ's power would actually rest upon his weakness.
So it turned weakness from a point of shame into a point of connection.
A profound shift in perspective. And that leads to this idea of three distinct states of mind about our earthen vessel status. This is where I think most of us get stuck.
Okay, let's walk through those. The first state is rejection.
Rejection is trying to deny your earthenness. This is the person who tries to improve or beautify the vessel with pure human effort, relying only on more culture, more study, better networking, self-help.
They're trying to polish the iron bucket. They refuse to just be a plain bucket.
Exactly. They despise their weakness and they try to mask it with external polish.
Okay, the second state is consent.
Consent is submission. They accept it They submit to being an earthen vessel, feeling they can't be anything else. They bear their weakness as, a necessary humiliation, a cross they have to carry.
But they don't rejoice in it.
No. They accept it grudgingly. They're resigned to it, but they still kind of wish the vessel looked a little nicer.
And that brings us to the highest state, the third one, delight. And this sounds like a massive mental shift.
It is. Delight is rejoicing in the position. It's counting your own earthenness as the highest blessedness. This is what Paul achieved when he learned to glory in his infirmities.
It means seeing that your highest honor isn't being a magnificent vessel.
But being content to be the cheapest, most ordinary container, empty, low, even broken if need be. Because that guarantees that the sheer undeniable force of God's power is what has to carry the load.
That's amazing. To treat my biggest limitation not as a flaw, but as the optimal condition for success. Which leads directly to the final truth, which honestly seems to contradict everything we just said about the abiding difference. And that's the living union.
It is a paradox, no doubt. We've established this abiding difference. I am nothing but a vessel. I am perpetually weak. But the source insists there is also a living union. The treasure doesn't just sit in me like gold in a bucket.
It enters and becomes my very self.
Yes.
Okay, wait. How can I remain perpetually nothing while at the same time the living life of God becomes me? That sounds a little bit like spiritual schizophrenia.
It's the miracle of the relationship. The life of God, the Holy Spirit, that holy love. It doesn't just sit in the vessel. The source says it passes down into my very being in such an infinite divine reality that it becomes my very own.
So even though the vessel is just emptiness that holds it.
The life of God becomes inseparably one with you for your life and for your work.
So the lesson is doubled. You have to learn the everlasting difference. I am nothing but a vessel, and at the same time know that this living treasure fills that emptiness and becomes seamlessly one with you.
The weakness ensures your humility, and the union ensures your efficacy. The object is always the same, that the excellency of the power may be of God.
If we allow ourselves to be truly empty and lowly, to get to that third state of delight,
then there's no telling how magnificently God will fill our hearts. The focus just shifts entirely from what we bring to what we can receive.
So this whole deep dive really boils down to a dual command for anyone learning or working in this way. It's about your posture.
It is.
The first command is be very humble, get very low down. And this isn't just, a nice suggestion. It's a structural necessity. You have to study humility to be delivered from every vestige of pride because a vessel has to be empty, clean, and lowly to receive the light.
You take time often to get low before God, asking him to deepen that conviction of your own utter nothingness.
And then the second command is the necessary balance to that.
Be very trustful. Since you are nothing, you can rise high in your expectation of what God will do in you and through you.
Believe in the unutterable riches of the treasure. God has entrusted you, the weak earthen vessel, with this glory. Your only job is to open your heart very wide so that light can come in every moment of the day.
Trusting that the power flowing through you is not actually yours to generate or maintain.
Right.
So we've explored those four wondrous dynamics, the incredible wealth of the treasure, the necessary feebleness of the vessel, the structural need for that abiding difference to prevent our pride, and then the empowering reality of their living union.
And this knowledge, it just changes how you approach everything. Learning, work, service, even failure. You are carrying the very light of God, but you are not responsible for generating that light. And the source leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to chew on. It says, if you suddenly acquired a priceless diamond, say worth $200,000, how meticulously, how carefully, how watchfully would you live to make sure that diamond was kept safe?
Now consider this. Since we have the heavenly treasure, the light of the knowledge of the glory of God, how carefully and watchfully should you live, knowing that God alone is responsible for keeping that light shining. It's maintained not by your effort, but moment by moment, as you are kept in his love. What does that kind of radical, constant vigilance and moment-by-moment dependence look like for you, starting today?